Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
Pretty good. Who am I speaking with? Is Angela?
No, this is Yanni.
Yanni. Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to get all the voices.
It's
Waiting
okay.
on Amp and Andre to call in. We did get on time, and we are recording. How have you been?
Pretty good. Not too bad. Praise the Lord.
That's good. You in Lafayette as well?
Yes, I just moved here in June.
From?
Yeah.
You moved up from June from where? Huh?
From where?
Yeah.
I was the Georgia number that kept calling in. We were
okay.
About 30 minutes from Atlanta.
You know, I've never really, it's been years since I've been in Atlanta and spent some time, almost 40 years. Been at the airport, been through the airport several times. And even as close as I am to Lafayette, I've never really stopped there. In Lafayette, I've stopped outside and picked up a few things on the way, from Baton Rouge, New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
But I hear that Lafayette is, for a pretty good little city, probably better than Lake Charles or Alexandria.
Okay. Well, so far, we like it. I had been visiting here for years. So it's kind of gotten under my skin, so to speak. Yeah.
You wouldn't be the lucky person bringing the topic tonight, would you?
Of course I am.
Okay, that's why you're on there. And I'll wait until everybody gets on before I ask what it is.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, and Mr. Everett, you need to stop through Lafayette sometimes. We have a good time over here.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Might have to do that.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely have to do that. It seems like an interesting little place. I mean, I ain't seen no skyscrapers or half skyscrapers like you see down but that doesn't really make a city. I know they got some good food, and they even have a few concerts. They got a lot more going on. And like I said, Lake Charles or Alexandria. But Lake Charles is not bad. I've been to a couple of little night spots, quiet spots that I like to go to. I'm not into the big party scene anymore, but I have been known to cut up a little bit. That took somebody, huh? Andre, y'all on yet?
We've been on.
They just been listening to you talk.
We've been giving you the floor. We've been giving you the floor, big homie.
When I dialed in, it was only one person. That was me and Ayana.
Yeah, we just been giving you the floor, man. We've been on.
I'm always going to be on the floor. But anyway, like I said, with keeping up with my, keeping up with my tradition. Like I said, I don't wait for a whole crowd of people to come on. Well, it's 8:30, and we're going to get started. So I'll either let Hamp do the introduction, or I'll let Angela do the introduction and introduce our speaker for the night. And everyone else, when she speaks, I will ask you to put your phone on mute, turn off anything that you have going on background that'll make unnecessary noises, and we're going to go ahead and kick this thing off. Whoever wants to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Miss Ayana, feel free to do so. And Concerned Citizens Coalition, West Central, Southwest Central, Leesville, Louisiana is on the air. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Hamp does a wonderful job, so I would assume he's going to do that.
He does. That's why
I will be more than happy to let you do this. This is your bestie.
Okay, y'all flip a coin. Whoever's gonna do it, I'm giving you the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
As I win, tells. Okay, I'll go because she ain't saying nothing. I'll go. Tonight we're having one of our newer members in the CCC that will be bringing the topic. And I briefly heard what the topic was going to be about today, And I'm just really waiting to see how all of this is going to turn out, because this is going to get deep, folks. I'm telling you, this is going to get real deep, and it probably will make a lot of folks think about a lot of things. So without further ado, Ms. Ayana, if you are ready, the floor is now yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm so used to being on mute that this is quite challenging, but I'm praying that everybody's all right. I wanted to give a small lead-in before I actually give the topic. We've seen quite a few cases in the news and in the headlines recently about things happening to students in schools, whether they were special needs students or whether they are just regular kids. And that kind of sparked the topic to try to figure out what is abuse. So the topic itself is, when does discipline become abuse? I have several. Can everyone hear all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have several cases that I looked up. This is from Nebraska, and it talks about my teachers don't like me. So if you can't hear, somebody send me a text message.
Tristan Eggery is in his happy place, playing fetch with his dogs, or showing off his collection of police patches.
And he even has the brass.
Although it's the 17-year-old's dream to join the force, it was his mother, Jennifer Eggery's nightmare when the family became the center of a felony child abuse case.
I just felt that I let him down because I couldn't help him because I didn't know, because he can't tell me.
Tristan's teacher in his Nebraska City special education classroom is facing a felony child abuse charge. Court documents detail how Melissa Valenta allegedly treated Tristan, who has autism and a gene mutation known to cause sudden death before age 20.
It really has affected our class and people.
At the start of this school year, Eggery noticed a change in her son's behavior.
He'd say things like, my teachers don't like me. I really never understood what that meant.
But Eggery...
Okay, that is the first one. I don't want to play too much because I want us to have time to actually talk about these. This is the second one.
Each day, parents send their kids to school with the underlying hope that they will be in safe hands. Well, tonight, News Channel 3's Tori Yorkie sat down in a one-on-one exclusive with one mother who is speaking out after she says her child was abused by an aide in the classroom.
A parent's worst nightmare became reality for Vankisha Hill after she watched a video of her 14-year-old son in his special needs classroom.
When I did see the video, I was in disbelief. I was shocked. I've seen the bending of the fingers, the squeezing of the fingers. I've seen pushing. I've seen jerking down. I've seen steady on the cell phone. Every time my son would get up, my son would be pushed down.
Her son goes to Horace Mann Middle School and is nonverbal. She says it was back in May she saw a bruise on her son's knee that raised concern.
Okay. Those are two of the cases that I found with special needs kids. There are hundreds of thousands of others out there where caregivers or aides or teachers have been accused of abuse. Probably one of the most heinous is the one from New York, where the child was nonverbal. She was strapped into her seat on the school bus, and the straps shifted and cut off her air, and she struggled for several minutes before she actually passed away, because the woman who was there to help her was on her cell phone and didn't see anything for about 10 minutes. And that within that 10 minutes, it was too late. The child was gone. We have those types of things happening to special needs kids. And the majority of what I found in terms of regular neurotypical kids is that it's sexual abuse. So how do we define abuse? Webster says that abuse is to use wrongly, wrong or improper use against a person. In other words, doing something to the person that is going to hurt them or cause them harm, either temporary or permanently in some way. So what I want to know from you guys is, like I said, the topic is, when does discipline become abuse? Or in your mind, what is abuse? So, anyone?
Well, this is Everett.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to, a lot of times, times are different. But I hate to go back and say, when we was kids, and I'll give you a perfect example. The way we got disciplined was, leather strap, yardstick, switches off the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to use this example because I have my brother that lives with me. He's like 10 years younger than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little older, and he was probably maybe a preteen. I probably should have been out of the house. But I was edging him on one day, and he got mad. So Daddy got mad at both of us. He knew he wasn't finna whip me. But he took it out on the young one. He got on me by egging it on. But he he got on my younger brother. He started hollering, child abuse, child abuse. This was in like the late 70s, early 80s. And back then he said, yeah, call child abuse if you want to. So, child abuse, I guess, we didn't know nothing about child abuse. The word never came, I'm sure. We didn't know nothing about it when I was growing up. You took your licks and you went on about your business. Slaps upside the head, beat down with whatever was available. But, you took it, and they always said, it's going to hurt me more than I hurt you. But a lot of us are in that age group where we got chastised like that, even in school. If you did something wrong, you didn't have to have no permission from a parent to say they're going to bust you up. Then it came to the point where, teacher would get hold to a kid, and then the kid go back home. That some parents were like, okay, that's good for you. Then you're finna get it again. But then there was some parents, even back then, you're not going to hit my child. But
right.
As far as discipline, if you physically harm someone to the point where I want to make sure I'm using the right word, you done broke a bone, or you drawn blood. I never got blood drawn when I was a kid. We just had some whips on us, and they make sure they cover you up so you went to school. But didn't nobody care. You went to school, you had them on. You got tore up at home. But no blood.
Mm-hmm.
No loss of limb, loss of eyesight. But, that's extreme right there. I don't know anybody that got beat down that bad. But if it comes to that, especially at a young kid where you beating them senseless for no reason, or you just taking your frustration out on that kid and not, giving them a couple of pats on the behind and say, don't do that no more, Johnny, when you just start beating, that's my definition of that discipline turns into abuse because you can take it to a level that gets to be too extreme. I hope I explained myself pretty good on that.
All right. I understood all of that perfectly. Go ahead.
Well, this is him. I came up in that era where it was do as I say, not as I do. And if you don't do what I say, it's going to be hell to pay. I grew up in a community where if you got in trouble down the street, you had whoopings all the way back till you got home.
Indeed.
And when you got home is when the creme de la creme of the whoopings came out. Because everybody else would just spank you. But when you got home, you got beat. You didn't get a few licks. You got beat. You got bent over the arm of the chair, the couch, put your hands under the couch. If you move, then wherever you got hit is where you deserve to get hit. Because why? You shouldn't have moved.
That's if you cover up.
A lot of or that would have been worse. Because a lot of what took place back in the 60s, 70s, part of the 80s, nowadays would be considered abuse. But to us, it was discipline. But nowadays, calling a child anything other than their birth name is considered abuse. That's considered verbal abuse. And that's in effect in quite a few school districts throughout the state of Louisiana right now. If you refer to a child by a nickname or any of that, that is considered verbal abuse. You will be reprimanded if you're heard by a supervisor or by someone who complains. A lot of what goes on now, I think, is based on what we grew up with. And this is just a lot of people's way of turning the tides, I believe. I'm going to make sure that if I get in a position, my child will never have to go through this. Or, I know they bad, but it's okay. They'll grow out of it. And the child in there tearing up stuff. You got several different phases, in my opinion, of discipline and abuse. Now, with the first clip you played with the child, okay, that's straight out abuse. You need to be caught, arrested, and convicted. Because in my eyes, that is true abuse.
And then you go to prison and get abuse again.
Hey, that's your fault there.
No,
but that's your fault.
And I'm saying, when you go to prison, they find out you're in there for child abuse, them guys will beat you to death.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them will.
Yeah, they don't play that mess beating our kids.
Yeah, some of them will.
Is that Brother Leon?
True.
My name Miles.
Miles, okay, I've heard your voice on before as well. Okay, I just kind of haven't heard you in a while. Welcome, Brother Miles. And I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself again. I just like to hear voices and kind of try to relate them to that, the name. Appreciate your input, homeboy.
But it's several. To me, when you use the word abuse nowadays, that could mean a multitude of things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back in the day, like Everett said, if it drew blood, then that's the only time it was considered excessive.
Right.
But nowadays, from as far as talking, screaming at a child is abuse. Anything physical, because you're literally not supposed to touch a child nowadays, because that's considered abuse. Now, the thing is, abuse only comes into play when there's something to be gained by it, in my opinion. And some folks run that abuse thing in order to get paid. Because what she didn't tell you, with a lot of what she played for you tonight, those folks sued and won millions of dollars.
From $5 million to $45 million. And in the sex abuse cases, $6 million and $9.5 million.
Yeah, but can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What is how can we discipline our kids? We can't even get to the point now. We're afraid if we discipline our kids, is it some kind of abuse? Because you're right. I remember back in the 60s, if I did something 2 blocks from the house, I get beat all the way back home, and I get seriously whooped when I get into the house. If you tell an old person, shut up, mind your business, you're in trouble.
Right.
But see, now they talk about disciplining your children. How do we discipline our children when you tell us if we do this, that's wrong, if we do that, it's wrong? Where's the right way to discipline your kid?
That's just it. There is no right way.
Exactly.
Because as a parent, you have to do what you feel is right for you and yours. Because I tell mine all the time, I'm doing all of this so that when you get out there in the street, them folks in uniforms don't have to, because you know better.
Right.
Because them folks in them uniforms, they ain't going to care. They're not going to care if you're dyslexic. They're not going to care if you're nonverbal. They're not going to care if you're having a bad day, because your day is about to get worse. They don't care about any of that.
I remember our mother used to tell us, "You call 911 if you want to. I'm gonna wait on the other end." And she said she let diapers come up here and tell her how to raise her kids, she'd beat them down too. I like, damn.
I won't tell no lie to nobody. I am 6'6". My mother was only 5'5". In high school, I was 6'3". I was scared of my mama.
Yeah, everybody.
My daddy was 6'3". I would talk back to my daddy before I would my mama. Because my mama was that one quick-tempered. Whatever was close is what you got hit with.
You remember the phones with the phone cord?
Oh, yeah.
I've been beat with a razor strap.
Yeah, I remember those too.
Extension cords.
I remember that.
Saying wire hangers. Yeah, I done had them too. So
my uncle used to take his extension cord, put them in knots, and let them soak in water. And let us sit here, let us watch him do that. Said, "This is for you guys." I'm like, "Oh Lord."
See, that's about as bad as taking a brand new leather belt, and you know back then the inside of the belt was rawhide.
Yeah.
It wasn't smoothed out. Take that and soak it in water.
It was real belts back then.
That's right. You take that and soak it in water.
Yeah.
and then just hang it out there on the line and let it dry naturally. See what you got.
I remember Richard Price. Richard Price, you said he used to see them switches out in the field. He used to go out there and tear all of them up.
Yeah.
You ain't going to grow.
See, because now that I remember my parents being up at my grandparents, if we got in trouble up there, they would be like, you go out there and get me a switch. Well, you going to go out there and find the puniest thing you can.
You right about that.
Because
but they going to go out there and cut down half a darn tree.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But them things did grow. Those switches did grow long, didn't they?
Yeah. Especially when you be running, you get hit in the back and the front with one swing.
My mother used to take those switches and braid them.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I like how they going to hold it? Actually, you know, it be holding. Oh, Lord.
Look, it served the purpose.
Taking it back to the topic a little bit, when you think about abuse today, they refer to abuse as tormenting. You've got verbal abuse, you've got medical neglect, you've got child abuse, no injury, you've got sexual abuse. So with that being said, and knowing how most of the people on the line grew up, because I think everybody's kind of seasoned a little bit, what would you tolerate from a teacher who was trying to discipline your child? What would you tolerate?
Well, this is Everett again. Like I said, right now we're living in totally different times than we did back then. I'm like this: if I send my kid to a school, if he's playing athletics or whatever, he belongs to that school from the time he walks in that door till the bus or whoever comes picks him up at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I would say, I don't know. I know right now, I know good and well that they don't have that type of what they call it corporal punishment. They don't have that in schools today. But I think it would be helpful or maybe effective if it was. But like I said, we have to kind of change with the time. And this is just not to get off the subject, but I was in a barber shop a couple of weeks ago, and the lady was in there, and the husband was getting a haircut, and the little kid was cutting up. She busted the kid up right there in the barber shop. And I'm like, whoa, that's old school. And like I said, if somebody had been there and disapproved of that, and the lady didn't kill the kid, she just patted on her behind 2 or 3 times, like, stop what you're doing, or it's finna get worse. Somebody could have called and said, she's beating her kid. And then, not to have anything to do with the school. But schools today and parents today, because I'm going to say it like this, we have so many parents that are younger than our parents. You got parents that's 15, 16 years older than the kid that they're taking to school. So they're basically kids themselves. So their attitude is different, and ain't nobody going to touch my child but me. So they probably getting their little timeouts, going to sit in detention, whatever, because I seen a kid, school-age kid, in the grocery store. And, timeout has been a big thing over the last few years. Yeah. And the mom saw the kid, the kid was acting up. If it had been us back in the day, we got snatched up right there in the store and been embarrassed. But the mom, I guess she called herself putting this kid in timeout. She started counting 1, 2, and the kid said 3, 4. And I'm like, I'm in the store. I'm like, boy, I'm glad he's not mine. Because when he got to 3, there have been some hollering in that store, like, come clean up on aisle 6. But as far as the discipline in the school today, as sad as it sounds, we just got to go with the flow, go with the times. It's probably not allowed, and they probably have to call your parent up there if you're acting up. And if that parent want to come up there and they say, teacher, you still got that old school board, And then if the parent go over there and do that, then they probably gonna cause them authority. So it's a thin line, it's a gray line on what they can do at school, what they can't do. But the way, like I said, we just have to roll with the time, change with the time, and say, hey, we're in a new world. But I think if we went back to some of the ways that we were brought up, we wouldn't have a lot of these issues that we're having now.
Right.
I think that in my case, if I got a kid I know that's acting up at home and I'm going to send him to school, I will let his teacher know, look, my son is a very active dude. Sometimes he get out of control. I will let her know what she's dealing with. You know, I wouldn't just like, here's my son, have a good day. I would like to sit down with her and say, look, I got an active son. Sometimes he do get kind of stupid. And he do this, but this is what I do to him when he get that way. And if he do get that way with you, I'll give you permission to not to beat him down, but, you know, to put him under control like I do. But I would let her know what she's dealing with. Because I don't think you should just say, okay, go to school, and then, you know, because teachers don't know what the kids, how they is at home and all that, what's going on. And when kids act up, they don't know how to deal with them. But if you could sit a teacher down and say, look, this is how my son act at certain times. When he get this way, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. You know, let her be aware of what to look for. And then when you can do that, then she understand what she's going to be dealing with. And if it get too close, too far out, you know, give me a call. You know, I give her my number with $3. If she can't handle them, call me. If I'm at work or not. It's about my son. My job is going to have to, hey, I got to go take care of my son. Because, you know, I just don't want him to get, you know, stupid crazy, then get out of control and she can't handle it. And then all of a sudden something real bad happen.
And you're correct, because even with whatever it said, that's pretty much how it goes nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
When a student acts up in class, they're put out of the class. At that time, depending on exactly what it was they did, they either go to detention, go to the office, or go home.
You know, another thing that's hurting us, too, is that, you know, the way with these, especially with single parents where they have to work two jobs, maybe 2.5 to pay their bills, and they don't have time to get to these PTA meetings. I remember them back in the day, too. You know, you go there, you find out what your kid doing and what he's not doing, and it's kind of hard on them, too, being single parents, to try to discipline their kid, especially with the school situation. So, you know, we need some teachers. I believe some teachers are just in there for a paycheck, and some of them do care. And those are the ones I want my kid to be around, somebody that really care about, you know, what my kid doing and what's going on. I don't want no lady who's just going to sit there, well, in another hour I get out of here. I don't care what happens. I don't want that. I don't want my kid in no class like that or around somebody like that, because it's going to get worse, and then he's going to end up getting worse.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want my kid in a class where the teacher can't control her classroom.
Exactly.
Because to me, now I'm catching the brunt of what goes on in class at home, because now you feel like you can come home and act like you did in class.
Exactly.
And that may work for a moment till you get broke up. Then you're going to realize.
I remember the words, too. I remember the words.
Yeah. This ain't class.
Yeah.
See?
That brings up another question that I had.
Okay.
How dangerous is burnout for a teacher? Is some of this, what we consider abuse, grounded in burnout?
That could be very dangerous for a teacher, because she could snap.
It could be very dangerous for a student.
Yeah, the student, like, especially if she gets enough, you know, she starts saying stop and he keep going, and all of a sudden her blood pressure's boiling. Sometimes they reach out and grab them too hard, and then bam. Next thing you know, you got a teacher on trial for murder, attempted murder, or snapping somebody's.
Or you got the situation where the little boy shot his teacher.
Yeah. And another thing is bad too. They put too many kids in a class for one teacher.
Because they short on teachers.
If you got like 20 kids in a class and one teacher, you looking for trouble. Especially if you're a parent, you got 3 kids, you can't handle 3 at home. Expect you got 17 more to add on to that? Come on. Whatever happened to assistants? I remember when I was going to school, we had a teacher and assistant in the classroom.
Yeah, when I taught, I was a teacher, and I had 2 paras because I had 24 kids in my class.
Yeah, when you overcrowd a class, you looking for trouble. So you got the bullying going on, and you know how kids could be cruel with one another. They see another kid in there with run-down sneakers, and he's getting smart with the kids, and all of a sudden they argue back and forth, and the teacher trying to keep them under control.
I saw a coach when I was in school get in between 2 students that was about to fight. And when it was all over said and done, they didn't have a scratch on them, but he went to the hospital for a concussion and a broke nose.
Okay. Now, see, that's what I would have been like you.
That was at the best part of the day, because that was lunch. So
I would have been, no disrespect, but I would have been in an orange jumpsuit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, I know you might be 10 or 11, but hey, I'll knock you out if I have to.
Hey, you get slapped to sleep.
Yeah. Because you're right. That little 6-year-old kid who just blew away his teacher.
Yeah.
Where he getting guns from?
Okay.
That's just crazy.
Better yet, how does he know how to use it?
Yeah. But see, the sad thing about it, that's what's happening in our school system. They don't know what they can do. They don't know how to discipline them. They're afraid to touch them because they're going to get sued or lose their job.
Right.
Even the little officers that they have in school are jokes.
Yeah. I call them paycheck workers.
They're not going to run up there and apprehend any of these kids because they're scared of a lawsuit. Some of them are just scared of the kids. Because I've seen kids from 6th grade to 12th grade. Some of these kids are pretty good size.
They don't look like little kids no more, right?
No, they don't, because they can hurt you.
Look like they're eating steroids for breakfast.
They can hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like said, that's where a lot of this bullying comes in.
And you don't even know if some of these kids got a mental issue.
Yes, that's true. One of my next questions was, why do some people say or feel that a child will make you hurt him? Is that ever warranted? And what would make you say that?
Being aggravated and fed up and consistently saying the same thing over and over and over to that child, to the point of where your blood pressure is boiling, like it was stated earlier, or to the point to where you're just at wit's end.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where we as parents, we got to know our limitations, because we know when something tick us off, we about to like lash out at somebody, like even to slap a kid. You know, sometimes we don't realize how hard we even slap the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta maintain our balance when we dealing with kids, because we know our limitation. We know we can get pissed off at any second, especially if you're a parent with a quick temper.
Mm.
You know, because I remember back in the day, you when the parents be talking, you jump in there, you say something, you get slapped backwards. Stay out of grown folks' business.
Well, you know what? I like to say something, Dr. James, if I can.
Go ahead,
about
Doc.
The burnout with the teachers. I think that, like, after a teacher teaches for a while, they should get a psychological examination. That should be mandatory. The same thing with the cops. I think after the cops work for a while, they should force them to get psychological, because you can get burnt out. And when you get burned out, you may need help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. You're doing this job for a long time. So there's nothing wrong with having them talk to a psychologist and see if they are fit to teach.
Come on, make you go home and drink.
Yeah. You know, like with the cops, you know, they might start out, they're doing fine. They're young, they got energy. They do 10, 20 years in the job, they burnt out. Instead of like being nice and then they quick to grab the gun and shoot at you because they're tired. You know, they need to talk to somebody. You know, it's a stressful job. The same thing with the teachers. A stressful job, especially working with little kids. But even the big kids, but the little kids, the junior high school is the worst. You know, I think so anyway.
Some of them kids, they might be 12, but they look like 19.
Some of them kids, they physically, their body is grown. And they're in the middle school, 8th grade. They're grown.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yo, my man, what's the name? You said you were 6'3"? Who said that?
No, I'm 6'6".
Yeah, you was in high school. When you was in high school, how tall was you then?
I was a freshman, 6'3", 290 pounds.
Hey?
Football. You played football, right?
Now, you tell me that could intimidate any teacher.
Very true.
Most of the teachers out there now is women.
Yeah.
Also very true.
Yeah.
Yep. It intimidates some teachers, that's for sure, because I was a college professor. I was teaching in college in Brooklyn, and I was talking to this little short Jewish lady. She was a professor. And I seen her we were putting in the grades. So I seen her, she was writing down A, B, A, B, A, B to everybody. So I'm looking at my grades because I got to calculate the grades. I don't just give A's and B's. I have to figure out the average, you know what I mean? Then I make a curve and see who gets the A, who gets the B, who gets, you know, like that. But everybody don't get an A and B. Some people get D's and C's, D's and F's too. So I'm asking her, I said, how do you know, and she didn't have no grades and nothing in front of her. So I said, how do you know who you're giving the A's and the B's to? You ain't got no grades here. You ain't calculating nothing. So she said, oh, I don't care. She said, I just give, this little Jewish woman professor. She said, I just give everybody A and B so they don't get mad at me. So I said, well, some of them don't deserve A's and B's. She said, well, some of them intimidate me. And she was real short and little. She said, I said, so like you kind of like afraid of some of them? She said, yeah. She said, I'll just give them A and B and just get my, you know. And so that's the kind of stuff they do sometimes, you know.
That sounds like my kind of thing.
Well, yeah, a lot of people like it, but I didn't do it because you got to learn a little bit of something. And some of those kids going to be doctors, lawyers, and nurses and stuff. So they got to learn a little bit of something, you know. And if you don't want to do no kind of work, you don't deserve to pass. Now, I had this African guy, 6'6", 300-something, maybe 400 pounds, whatever, 300-something. He's talking about he a boxer, right? So I was standing in the hallway, and he was in my class, but he didn't want to do no work, nothing, right? So I said, he came to me and said, hey, doctor, you know, I'm mad at these people. He's pounding his fist. So I'm a boxer. He said, I'm mad at these people because they're trying to rob me. I said, what are you talking about, rob you? He said, they're taking my money, but they don't want to give me no grades so I can want to be a pharmacist. To be a pharmacist. So I said, you know, he told me, now, he wanted me to change his grade because I gave him an F. So he got me in the hallway, right? So I'm like 5'8", and he's 6'5" or 6 something. So he got me in the hallway, and I'm standing against the wall. He's pounding his fist, looking at me, and he said, I need to get a B in this class to get in the pharmacy program. I said, man, I can't get no B. I said, you didn't do not one inch of work. You did no homework. You failed every test. And now you want me to give you a B? You don't want to do nothing. And he just looking out trying to get me scared. But I stood right against that wall, my back against the wall so he couldn't grab me. And then I said, you know what I'll do, man? I made a deal with him because they're like people talking about he's going to try to kill me. I said, I'll give you an incomplete. So now he got to take the class over. But you don't have to pay for it again. So you get an incomplete. They make you take the class over, but you don't have to take it for free. So that's what I had to give him. But I wasn't going to give that guy no B because he didn't do not one piece of work. He wanted to be a pharmacist, and he don't want to do nothing. You know what I mean? So that's sometimes the students do intimidate professors. You know?
I'm glad you ain't give him a B. Then he'd be working the farms to give me the wrong drug.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Overdosing people, right? So that's why. But I'm saying they will you, especially some of these like these men that are big, huge, and they get some kind of little teeny weeny say professor, and they they're gonna intimidate them.
Yeah, when I was in college, I intimidated my professors all the time.
Yeah, I know, Adrian, because you how tall are you? 5'2"?
Yeah, 5 foot even.
Now you can imagine what these professors going through when they're dealing with athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't hardly read or write.
I had a guy 6'9" in my class. I failed him. But see, I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm kind of a little used to dealing with people like that. What?
I said represent.
This guy was on the basketball team. They played the NCAA tournament. He was on TV and everything, the center of the team. But I failed him before that because he failed every test. His average like 40-something. I couldn't pass him. And I had the manager of the team. He came. I was working at Long Island University. The manager of the team, he came to me, and he said, because also I'm a podiatrist, so I had an office. And he said to me, aren't you going to pass that guy? And I said, well, I can't talk about no other students' grades with him. But he said, okay, I'm going to come to your office as a patient. So he tried to make me say, okay, if he came to my office and I made some money from him, as a patient, then I would pass the guy. I said, I'm not going to do that because this guy got to learn a little bit of something. And it turned out good because he had to take the class over. But he played next year, and they get to the tournament, NCAA. It was on TV. Game, that season. So he just had to take the class. I have teachers like that. And
Dr. James, you're breaking up.
Breaking up real bad, Dr. James.
Breaking up, Dr. James.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying you don't have it like it used to be because in the olden days, teachers were tough. Now, everybody's scared of everything. Because, see, that what they teach in school? Don't get in no confrontation with the students. You know why? Because they don't want the student to come back into school next day with a shotgun and shoot the school up.
Okay, that being said, Dr. James, it sounds like the topic is I said, with you saying that, it sounds like the topic is kind of changing from abuse to children to abuse to teachers, which is actually a different, viewpoint to discover and talk about. It is, it's really interesting that it has gone this way, because all we ever hear about in the news and the headlines is the abuse that happens to children. And then when the teacher retaliates, it's never from the standpoint of, the teacher was afraid for their life, or, the teacher had to do something to make sure that the other students didn't get hurt. There was another case that I saw. Someone videotaped a child in the lunchroom. She was so out of control, it took 4 adults to get her out of the lunchroom. Now, the story went left because what they did was they put the child in a locked closet. And that was the standard operating procedure for this child, was to put her in a locked closet. Well, her parents sued because her mentality and her habits and everything changed to where she didn't want to be alone. She didn't want to be alone in a room. Locked doors were an issue, and they felt like the school had really let their child down and abused her.
Isn't that a form of abuse too? That them throwing her in a closet like that?
Yeah, that's illegal.
Thing. Yes. Well, my thing is, yes, they should have had some other protocol in place to handle the child, but do you allow a child to intimidate the teachers, beat the teachers, or even hurt the other students? My thing is, with abuse, it's almost like love. Everybody has their own definition of it. And when you're looking at a situation, your the things that have happened to you are also part of the way you're judging that situation. That's why there's such a difference from case to case of what is considered abuse. With the special needs child, it was the squeezing of the fingers and things like that was considered abuse.
Right.
Now,
can I say something?
This young girl they would just talk about that put in a closet like that, did they ever find out that she was on some kind of medicine or had a mental issue? Or was she just was she just like a normal kid, or maybe she was on some meds and she didn't take them, or she just had mental issues that she just
I know
went off?
Okay.
She would have no doubt.
Real quick, Miles, the question you just asked is a valid question, but listening to the story, and I worked with children with mental health issues for 20 years, and I'm sure that was not the first time the child was acting out, because they knew that they had to get how many other adults, 4 or 5 adults, to maintain her, restrain her, but either way, they are not allowed to lock her in a closet. They have to have a protocol. They have to have a timeout room, especially if you have kids with that kind of issue. Because she could have got hurt in the closet. She could have hurt herself. There could have been something hanging in there. She could have strangled herself. And the number one concern, yes, you want to get the child calmed down, but the number one concern is the child's safety and the teacher's safety and the safety of the other people in the room. So if the child was supposed to be on medication and she wasn't, that's on her parents for letting her come out without. But I'm looking, when I first heard the story just now, the first thing in my head was the head of the school have not trained those teachers in how to handle crisis, because there are lots of kids with these kind of problems. And if you're not trained, you do a panic thing, like lock them in a closet.
So the school should have more social workers who deal with issues like that. Because first of all, security guards they only train for one thing, is to disarm someone or to hold them down. It's not being gentle with anyone. They're not trained for that.
No, I'm not going to agree with you because I've done trainings. I was a trainer in the mental health hospital that I worked in, and I had police officers, school security, mall security guards, all kinds, to teach them how to restrain people without hurting them. Like let's go to that guy on the train, the Marine that killed that guy. He was not trained to take a guy and put him in a chokehold. That's not the proper way if a person is out of control or even an obvious mental health problem, is to take him in a chokehold and don't let him go until he falls. And there were 2 other people helping him. So, I look at that and I said, I know, because I've conducted the training. I've not only been through the training, but the police officers, firemen, EMT workers, they all had to take those kind of trainings because everybody is not about you shooting them, you throwing them in, what do you call it, where they handcuff your hands to your feet, all situations. Hog tie them. All situations don't need that, so they had to learn how to assess the situation, and if they're overly violent and if they look like they need medication, now I just learned this recently because I've been out of the field for over 9 years, but I just learned because it was a situation with my brother. He was out of control, and I got a call from some people called the emergency team. It's a social worker and a psychiatrist who follow when they get a call like that the person is out of control, because my brother's a big guy, out of control. And I called the police station, and I said, look, my brother is big, and he may be acting up, but he's gentle. He's not going to fight anybody. Please don't go in there shooting. That was my biggest concern. They were going to his house shooting because he wouldn't come to the door or nothing. And I said, he's a gentle giant. If you don't yell at him and don't threaten him, he's not going to be violent. And then they called me back. I was surprised. They called me back, and another lady called me back. She said they were in a car outside behind the ambulance. If they had to take him out in the ambulance, that's fine. But if he starts going off on them, they're called a mental health team that they will go in and deal with it. So the psychiatrist can, do the shot with it, calm him down immediately. So this way, they cut down on police feeling they have to shoot him to calm him down. But they said I was still on the phone with him. I said, they're at your door. You have to open the door for them. And he said, I don't want to open the door. I said, they're going to help you, James. Open the door. They're not going to take you to jail. He goes, can you promise that? I said, I know they're not going to take you there because I know they were going to take him to the hospital. And so he got up, and then the lady from the mental health team called me. And she said, I just want you to know you don't have to worry about anything. He came out the door, and he only had underwear on, and so one of the police officers went inside and got him a pair of pants and told him to lay on the stretcher. He laid on the stretcher, and they strapped him down, and they took him. And I love the fact that they got that now. But back in the day, they didn't have that. All police knew how to do is shoot, but they would shoot with those beanbag guns.
Well, that's fine and dandy, but when we talk about children here in these schools, kids out of control like that, are these schools even having training for these teachers and psychiatrists, and social workers, how to deal with them? Are they having meetings after class, or like, okay, all the teachers, all the social workers, I want y'all to come to the auditorium. We're going to have a seminar about how to deal with kids with this issue, that issue. Are they doing that? Now, I understand what you're saying, but we talk about...
That is included in teacher training. My friend in Florida is a middle school teacher, and she has to go to those trainings.
Is they doing this on a regular, not just like once a week? I'm talking about...
Miles, I don't work in the schools, so I don't know how often they do it.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking the other lady. Who's the other lady out here? What's her name?
You talking about me, Yanni?
Yeah.
If it's going on, it is few and far between. We talked about teachers being burnt out earlier. They have so much that they have to do. Sometimes to require them to come for extra training is a hardship for people. However, it is necessary. They're going to have to find a way to do it because we have so many kids now that have issues, whether it's a mental issue or whether it's, they're stressed out about something. You do not know what people are going through these days, and we can't come at them sideways like we used to. It used to be, that people were
all
just,
they knew.
Right. They give you a harsh or a mean word and going about their business. But nowadays, you do that to somebody or you punch somebody, they could come back with a gun. If they know, martial arts, they could beat you down like that. You just do not
only
know.
a gun, any kind of weapon.
Right. When it comes
to
school.
Have you with a pen?
Right. When it comes to school,
So what we really need is more seminars for these teachers and some professionals to come in and let them know, hey, this is how you deal with kids like this.
Well,
and it'd be good, and like I said, it'd be good if these teachers know if these kids come into class, do they have some kind of mental issue?
Right.
Or like anger management. Or is your kid, is he always angry?
It's supposed to be part of their school record.
No, I'm saying, true, but some parents don't always tell the truth.
That's true.
They don't want their kids, they don't want you to like, oh, my kid retarded. Or my kids, they don't want people to know that. So they say, no, my son normal, and blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying for the teacher's safety, I think it's a good idea for these teachers to know each student what if they have a mental issue, what it is. If they got anger issues, they should know about that. Mm-hmm. If he get pissed off because he got a bad grade, they should know that too.
Right.
Some people get crazy over grades.
You're correct. You are correct. But the thing is, when you've got, like you said, 20. Now, when I was coming up, there was 30 kids in a class. I know they're trying to make the classes smaller these days, but when you've got 20 kids who may or may not have different issues, it's kind of hard to keep up with, especially when it comes to, inclusivity. They're trying to make sure that a lot of the kids with autism and other issues are part of the mainstream classrooms, and that's wonderful.
And to me, that's more of your problem than anything else. Because you have kids that will come into class and teachers are meeting these kids for the first time and may not know anything about autism.
Exactly.
But now you have kids in your class that are autistic, and now you're coming up from behind now, so to speak, trying to figure out what do you need to do to get through to this child. Because, one, they don't test and diagnose kids like they used to.
True.
Yeah. Well, let me give another example.
A lot of parents don't trust them test anyway. They think they probably just saying that just to make money.
Well, got to take them somewhere else to be tested.
Well, my niece works at the school. My niece is a teacher in the school with kids with autistic, and she tells me what she go through there. And I mean, sometimes I ask her, "Why you do it?" She said she just want to help them as much as she can, but it's hard. It's hard because you don't know what they're going to call or what they're going to do. She said sometimes they be sitting there just as quiet, and next thing you know, 10 or 15 minutes, two or three kids over there hollering, snapping at each other, and they just get out of control.
But that's any kid. You don't have to be diagnosed. But I have a godson who's autistic.
But I'm just saying, I'm talking about when my niece said when she deal with kids that do have mental issues, and that they do. She do have another.
Technically, autism is not a mental health issue.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know that, but I'm just saying. She said that there's another teacher that comes in there and help her out too, and some of them teachers, they do have meetings with other doctors that come to the school. This up in here in Fairlawn. They have teachers that come up there and doctors come up there and tell them, teach them how to deal with certain kids and what to look for. Because some of these kids are just just coming in for the first time, and they don't have an issue. They don't know what to expect from them. Now, the fact that school over here in Fairlawn is doing that, now, this school over here in Fairlawn doing that, getting doctors to come in there and teaching these, talking to these teachers about what to look for and what to expect, I don't see why other schools can't do that.
The other schools can do it. It's up to the principal if they want to.
But other schools may not have the money in the budget to do that.
Yeah, that's another thing that pisses me off too. But you mean to tell me we ain't got money for a budget, but we can give them like $16 billion to go set off a bomb somewhere?
That's two different budgets.
I'm just saying. Hold on, AJ, hold on. That's no damn excuse me. That's no excuse. When you got kids in school that's going through this, and you're gonna talk about a budget, but yet our country could go out there and buy missiles for like $2 or $3 million just to test them, and then the kids suffer? Come on, whose side you on? Who you really looking out for?
It's not about being on side. Go ahead.
It's about one. Everybody doesn't feel the way that you do about education for children.
Right.
I got you.
Right.
Two, your lawmakers,
they suck.
A lot of this is based on them, and they do what they have to do to get reelected. Because let's face it, kids don't vote.
Right.
Okay.
So education is not at the forefront of every meeting with the Senate and with the House of Representatives.
Well, that's why the governor of Virginia ended up winning election, because he fought for education, and the parents went along.
Let me butt in here. I know y'all in traditional CCC fashion. Once again, we got way off the topic that started out at 8:30. But it's all interesting, and I'm listening to it, and I agree with a lot of stuff, and all with some of the other stuff you're saying. It's all true facts. But I'm gonna turn it back over to the host who brought the topic and let her come in, and she can take it from there.
All right, thank you, brother. Even though we were off topic, I think that some of what was said was necessary.
It's we always going to be off, but it turns into something very interesting and very informative and fact. So I just want to kind of get us back on a little track. But if you're the host tonight, I'm just the host technically to do the numbers and put the recording in. But it's your show tonight, and you go with it. And if you're good with this, I'm loving it.
And you wonder why the education system is in the bottom of the barrel in this country.
Well, one of the questions that kind of got lost is what would you consider abuse from a teacher in regard to your child?
Going over and above the standards of whatever's on the school system. In a school system, they have rules as to how you can punish a child, how to treat a child, and what to do if ABC happens. Every school has their standards. And when you go above that standard, it's abuse. That's my definition.
Okay. So if a teacher repeatedly called your child out of their name, nothing bad like the BITCH or anything like that, but they just called, say, Johnny, you're a nut. Johnny, you're a comedian. Is that considered abuse?
Yeah, I would say no, because they're not bad names. It all depends on the reaction of the kid. If I'm a child and you call me a nut and it hurts my feelings and you constantly call me a nut, yeah, that's abuse.
Well,
but
no, that actually is just. Go ahead, Miles.
I say it's abuse because kids believe what other people tell them. Just keep telling him he nuts or he crazy, he gonna start thinking that's true. Because every time we turn around, what we call, as parents, we even call like, sit your crazy behind down somewhere. You ain't no good. You useless. And kids start feeling that. They got feelings too. Mm-hmm. So we just can't do that. If his name's Johnny, call him Johnny. Don't say, Johnny, you nuts. Just say, Johnny, will you chill out? Or, you need to calm down or something. But don't be calling them out their name.
Okay.
Because it also goes.
Some of them might take it serious. Because we know in the streets, hold on, in the streets, kids, you call a kid call another kid, oh, you little punk behind something, they get mad. So if a teacher calling them a name like that, he ain't going to get upset?
Mm.
You don't do that.
Here's what I'm thinking, that abuse and domestic violence and emotional abuse is the same thing. So if an adult can get offended because somebody calls them a name, and then they should, not even just offended, if it's an insult, because that's what it is. It's an insult, so it is an assault, and so, yes, it is abuse. Call the child by their name, or you could say, hey, but what that also indicates, just like with parents, is that the teacher doesn't have control, not of the child, but of themselves. And it can happen. You can get so frazzled, you know, she may say you're a nut because something, or he, because something else needs to come out, or she feels like, you know, so she takes the lower end of it, but it's still a direct insult to the child and their character. So it is an assault, so it is abuse. That's my opinion.
Okay. Anyone? Excuse me. Anyone else?
And may I ask, Adrian, please? You said that autism is not a mental illness, but they do treat it with psychotic medication. So I beg to differ. If it's a developmental disorder, if it is a developmental disorder, and it develops,
the DSM-3 don't have it under the same category as mental health.
And that is because
that's, as a mental health specialist, that's what I have to go by.
I know, I understand, and this is why so many people are lost. Not you, but so many people are lost into understanding mind health and mental health being the same. So it is a mental health disorder because developmentally the brain isn't functioning properly, and that is mental health. So the agenda makers will not say that because they want to categorize mental health issues in a certain kind of funding way, but it is a mind/mental health condition.
I'm not going to argue on that.
Right. We're not going to argue.
Now, to the host here, like you saying, getting back to the teachers calling the kid names, right? Now, if they calling the kid nuts or crazy like that, you know that kid going to go home and tell his mother that his teacher calling him that, right? And then that going to cause another issue.
Right.
Okay. I wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Getting back to I have to straighten it out because that's like a pet peeve of mine. Evangeline, I agree with you to a certain extent. However, they consider it a developmental issue, but so often it is paired with other comorbid issues like depression and anxiety, and those are the mental issues. So the lines have gotten so blurred. That's why they're saying that autism is a mental illness. But anyway, back to the topic. I really want to hear from some people that we haven't heard from before. They know who they are. I don't really want to call them out. Brother Andre, Sister Angela. Okay.
We have a new person that came on. Basically, what was the topic? Because I just came on. What was the original question?
Was, when does discipline become abuse? And we've discussed the whole gamut of things from tormenting, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. We didn't really get into medical neglect, but that's a really big one. And then there's child abuse, no injury.
Okay. Well, I had an incident where my daughter went to school, and because she was in a private school, they beat her with the ruler, and the child had lied on her. So it resulted in a whole big altercation, and I had to take my daughter out of that school because she wasn't going to stand there and let herself be beat for a lie. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Some people abuse authority. I don't think they should be chastising anybody else's child. If the relationship and the parent have given them some kind of consent for anything, it's because they trust them to do what it is that they do with their child, or what's right to do with their child. And so people overstep their boundaries, and that's why we have so much upset in school. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times our children are not respected, and some of them are not respectful. You know what I'm saying? So then it goes with a whole big upset. And so these teachers are a lot, some of them, the old-fashioned ones, are in the mindset that they pretty much can do what they want to do, and everybody has to take it. And now we have our children at a different age and the stuff that our parents went through. We're not going to allow anybody to do that to us. So now you got you got both sides battling right now. And so I think the approaches have to be changed. I heard you say earlier that it really is necessary for them to go to the extra training, even though they feel like it's overwhelming and they don't have the time. But they really have to find new approaches to deal with these situations and these kids, because it's jeopardizing everybody, not just the child, not just the teacher, everybody else. We're all involved in this. So I heard Mal say that they need to know what the conditions are, or the children, the mental issues. I'm sorry. But a lot of times a parent has to ask for their child to be evaluated. I had custody of my grandkids, and I had to ask for all of them to be evaluated. And I had to take measures where sometimes I would have to call crisis and perform care to come out, and then they would have different people to come out to teach different skill sets, because some kids don't know how to deal with their emotions and their feelings because of whatever stresses that they're going through in their situation. So we have to find the way, whatever it is, and it's not all the same across the board. So we have to be explorative and find out what works for each individual child. And what I learned is that although they let us know that there are 7 different functions of learning, they always seem to only have one style or one function that they use. And they want every child to fall in line, and that's not the case. So we have to know what's going on with our children and those around us, and we have to demand that they find out this information to know that they know and have it on record. Because as a child care provider in home daycare, I had to have all of those records on file at all times in case of any emergency. So I needed to know all those things. So it's mandatory. They need to make it mandatory. And as soon as they find out the behaviors change in any way, they need to ask for that child to be evaluated. Instead, I ended up having my 4 grandchildren evaluated to make sure of what was going on. And then I had to take the special time with them to make sure that whatever they needed, they had, whether they needed medication or sometimes they needed to have classes where they interact and play games where they learn how to deal with their stress. And they had a lot of different things that helped them out, and they just took time. We just have to slow the clock down a little bit for them to catch up. And so they're doing very well now, all of them. But people just have to understand, take the time to learn each individual child or find a way and stop putting them all in one group, because that's a lot of the problem. They're all lumped up in one group, and we don't know the different needs of the children. So that's my input.
I think that, this is Adrian again, that would be ideal, but like you said before, that's difficult when you're a teacher, you walk in a classroom, and you got 32 new children in your class. My friend is a middle school teacher. She has 4 classes, and each class has at least 30 kids. And it's really, and it's not, I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it takes time. It may be half the semester over by the time she realized, okay, Johnny has a problem. We need to get him evaluated. or Mary has an issue. We need to get her evaluated. So sometimes it might be a whole school year before, the child is identified as having a problem or adjusted, like she said, need medication or not, And then, like Miles says, sometimes the parents are in denial. Ain't nothing wrong with my child. I ain't taking them to psychiatrist.
But after you have a skill set when you're watching these kids, you may not identify it right away, but in any profession, after a while, you start getting to see the different signs to let you know that more is needed, whether that child is interactive with other children, whether they're sharing, whether they're off to themselves. It's different indicators. How often they run into the bathroom, how they respond when they're in recreating classes. I can't get the word out. But it's different signs. So as these teachers are trained, even if they ask, programs for parents in New Jersey have online classes on all different levels for all different types of certification. So even if they ask these teachers to do this from home, and do the testing and whatever, qualify that way, that would be better than not doing anything at all, and it will make them sharper and more aware of, and then it'll be a lot faster.
Okay. All right. Did anybody have anything?
Question.
Okay.
What would it be considered if the parent is having problems with the child, but doesn't take the time to get the child tested,
neglect,
nor medicate?
Neglect.
That's straight neglect.
Okay.
And unfortunately, some parents are in the. I think we said this. Some parents are in denial. Now, that being said, the parent may be in denial because the parent has an issue and does not want to address it.
Right.
And
it's still seen that happen.
And it's still going to be neglect, though.
Right.
And the parent will still be held accountable.
Mm-hmm. I'm a proponent of like a national screening. When you take a child to the doctor for their checkups, I think that doctor should be thorough enough to assess whether or not a further assessment is needed. Because case in point, with my son, the doctor never told me what he suspected. He just sent me to a developmental pediatrician who, because the child couldn't make eye contact and a few other things, dismissed everything. So I didn't know until my second child got diagnosed that my first child was actually autistic as well. So now pulling that back to the topic, it is imperative that teachers realize that every child is not the same. They cannot have a blanket disciplinary protocol, whatever you want to call it, because every situation is so different. Now, when it comes to the violence, though, they have to start putting those protocols in place because that's where the majority of abuse seems to be taking place. We've commented before about, if a child does such and such or student does such and such, protect yourself. I'm not saying don't do that because, anyway, moving on.
Yeah, that's a tough situation, but the unfortunate part of that is that some people don't know how to do things within reason. You know what I'm saying? Even protecting themselves. That's the whole problem right there. Some people just go overboard because that last incident with the teacher beating the kid down really bad, it didn't have to go that far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can restrain, and even you're going. If they hit you and you restraining them and they going too far, and I mean, but it's certain things when you're going extreme. Like, come on. I think that even parents that disciplining children try to instill a certain amount of fear into that child, so that child knows not to play like that. But they are in their own head. They're measuring the level that they're dealing with, so that they don't overdo whatever they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so people don't exercise that judgment, especially not with other people's children.
Right.
And that's the problem.
And the word is self-control. The child has to have self-control, but the adult really has to have self-control. Because you can seriously hurt a child and not mean to.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. Well, I think we had a pretty good discussion tonight, and I really appreciate everyone's input. Everyone's thoughts, are valid. As an educator myself, I take a lot of this into consideration, and as a parent, I'm praying for my children that they get teachers who are patient, who are not burnt out, who can help them, who can teach them and pour into them, because, teaching is great, but sometimes you have to pour into a child. So I'm hoping that they get that as well. Not only my kids, but all the other kids in all the other school systems. I'm just...
It used to be a time that people were good at that.
Yeah.
Right.
I've met some teachers now that are like that, and I love to hear them talk about their children in their class, and they refer to them as, quote-unquote, their children.
Yeah.
My friend has been teaching for 32 years. She teaches 6th grade, and she's still one of those teachers that, when I lived in Florida up a block from her, she would come to my house after school and get on the phone and start calling parents. She'd call the parents if your child is doing better. She'd call the parent if the child is acting out. She'd call the child if she's concerned about something. She would call the parent, the last 2 days he hasn't had lunch. He just refused to eat. So she does it out of concern. And I said, it's so good to know that there's still teachers that do that. But she's an old school teacher. Like I said, she's been teaching for over 30 years.
Right.
Wow.
She old.
I'm going to tell her you said that. I'm going to tell her where you live.
Don't make that man leave.
Hey, I'm on medication now.
Not good enough.
Yeah, especially for the models of that lively interaction. A lot of what he said made us think, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, Brother Everett, ball's back in your court. Did we lose?
All right. No, I'm right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the topic.
Interesting topic tonight. It did get a little off, but I think everything kind of related to what you had talked about. And I'm going to do like I do every Wednesday night. And if you're on the net and you are part of the net, I want to ask a question to people that have shows. Did they have the monthly meeting today? I think it's supposed to be next week, but I saw a text late after I got off work. Say again?
That's next week.
Okay, good. Great. So everyone that is on the network tonight, and we have about a minute left, go ahead and promote your show. But I know, like I said, tomorrow we have Mr. Bill Graves and Brother Wagner that come on. The times are in the evening, 6 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Eastern. And if you're on a show and you're on the net, promote your show before we say good night. We don't really have to get off right away, but we have, because there's nothing else following us this time of night.
Right. Okay, This is Adrian, and we talk with Adrian Friday, beginning at 6 p.m. And this week we're going to be talking about caretakers.
Say that again.
This Friday we'll be talking about caretakers.
Oh,
people
okay,
who,
okay.
If they're elderly parents.
Okay. Yeah, I know few people that have dabbled in that industry.
Well, tell them to come on Friday.
All right.
6 p.m. Everybody's welcome.
Okay, dope.
This is Deborah. My show is Sunday from 7 to 8:45. Impact with gospel music. You can call in, make your selections known. We encourage each other to go through the week, and uplift each other. So also the show tomorrow with Mr. Graves is at 8:30.
All right, thank you very much for that.
It's Yvonne with Company, talk worth listening to. I have my show on Mondays at 4 p.m., and all are welcome. Thank you.
Mic check. All the ladies done?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Brother Everett, Brother Hamp, wonderful show, wonderful guest. Sister gave a very good presentation. Brother Everett, please tell me that you're recording your show tonight.
I did.
Wonderful. You're going up on YouTube tomorrow, brother. All right, just checking. All right. No, because it was a good show. I listened, This is as far as Nance. Every Saturday between 6 and 8. My guest this week will be Darcel. They're down in your neck of the woods, Brother Hamp. They're in the state of Georgia. And they'll be Darcel and Charles Robinson. They'll be talking about stem cell patches and how it draws things out of you to go to the troubled areas in your body to rejuvenate the cells in your body. It doesn't put anything in you. So it's going to be a scientific research and a health modality. So this Saturday between 6 and 8, we'll have Brother Robinson. They're talking about stem cell patches from the Lightwave Company. All right, so it'll be very interesting. In case you guys might have a little pain somewhere or something you're trying to, alleviate, put this patch there. And I ordered some patches from them, and you wear it 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So you start in the morning, start at 8 o'clock, take it off at 8, see how it works. I know some people who have given testimonies that said it works. So this Saturday between 6 and 8, family. Grown Folks Talk and Express Yourself Progressive Podcast Network. Can you say it that fast, Brother Everett? Thank you.
Hey, man, you sound like a radio host, man, but what you are. But hey, that was well put, well said. So, I always say the last word for our call him the Grand Poobah of the network, the founder pretty much of the network, the administrator of the network, Brother Forrest Nance. And if that is all everyone has to say, I'd like to thank everyone for listening again. It's been a very informative show, and it's always going to be that way when the CCC is involved. And I encourage, like I said, I try to pass the emails that I get, the text that I get to the members, because I get a group chat, and encourage you to listen to some of the other programs. I pop in a lot. But I want to really, if you're looking for some financial advice or looking for how we melanated people can maybe start to get back to where we need to be, because we've been stripped of so many of our liberties and rights, be sure to listen to Coach T and Brother Alex Watley Bay every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. our time, 5 p.m. Eastern. Brother Bay coming out of Houston. I don't know exactly where Coach T is located, but they always have an interesting show. And I get reminders, and I'm going to start forwarding those to, I guess I have Hamp and, Andre's number, and if I can attach it and put it on an email, that way Ayana and Angela, y'all will get those as well, because we got to connect and stay connected with our East Coast brothers and sisters, so this network will be a real networking thing. So if nothing else is need to be said, any comments, I appreciate everyone for listening tonight. I got to lay it down because I get up in about 6 hours. But appreciate all y'all. God bless. peace, blessings. Have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I love you. I love you all.
Love you too.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah, John Boy, okay.